Right, first job of the week. Strip all this suspension off. So we're going to put it back on the spit now. So we'll pull all this off and do the final preps ready for it to go to paint shop. Now that's all the Eggenberger spec uprights and arms and anti-roll bar mounts. See all the stitch welding that we did previously. And then there's the rear beam and the alloy rear arms. So again, all that's going to come off now, and we'll start looking at putting all that together properly whilst the car's away for paint. So we'll check all the rose joints over, make sure that they're all alright, make sure all the bobbins are in the right place. Ready for it to all go back together. Right guys, Tuesday afternoon, I've just finished off another thing that's probably quite special to the Eggenberger cars. So as you can see, they've got these little bosses. So these little ears here are welded onto standard beam, and then these bosses go through the floor and they're just welded on at the side of the cage. So basically what that does is it ties the beam into the cage. What we think it's to do is basically to stop the beam tilting like this when you load the diff up. So obviously if you come out of a corner and you stamp on the throttle, it'll try and twist the diff. So we think that's what they're there to do, is take any twist, because this bit would normally be just floating under the car. But it only bolted on here, and then obviously your arms and your dampers. So we'll give it a spin over, and then we'll show it from inside, and you can see how it just touches on the side of the cage. And again, something else that we've copied from Paul's original car. Just another one of them little touches that makes it slightly different to all the others.
I need 2 hands.
It pays me in pennies. Right, so now we've flipped it over, we can see here how it just, so when I set the cage position, I made sure that as I made the boss, these little bosses that I've made up and threaded and what have you, that they just catch on the side. So that's basically welded to cage and to the strengthening plates. Again, that's exactly the same as how it's done in Paul's car. And yeah, we're quite happy with that. Alright, that's the floor plate all chopped out. I've cut all this out, I use a jigsaw for that, and then I've just cleaned it up with a 180 on the orbital sander, a DA, just to give it like a grain finish. So I've done that before I put the ridges in because it makes it easier. Once I put ridges in, I'll just clean up the last bits. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to basically bead form it. So that's going to be the foot plate. Grip tape will be obviously in between, and then we'll have raised bead forms that your feet will rest against. So basically it'll be humped up in that direction. I've marked off the start and the finish. We've worked out on a test piece how many turns we need to get the die formed how we want it, the amount of raised bead. So we'll see how we get on.
Alright, that's all. Right, just check that's in the right spot for you.
Yep. So we want
3.5.
1, 2, 3.
And now.
There we go.
Right, let's fuck this up.
In forward this time.
Yeah.
So head that way.
Right, you pull it that way and I'll pull this way.
Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, you pulled it off.
Took one. Oh. It's alright.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Right, as you've seen, that's bead form now. You see nice little lumps in there. That'll also give you with a grip tape between it, stop your feet sliding. Adds a lot more strength to the plate as well. So once that's bolted in, you'll not push down on that. You can probably stand on that and it'll not bend it. So yeah, makes a nice tidy foot plate. We could have gone with the dimple dies, but then it's just you're at risk of losing stuff underneath it and bits and pieces. So we've gone with that, down that route of bead forming it, and we think it looks nice and finishes off what is just a flat plate.
Right guys, it's forgotten what day it is already, Wednesday. What we've got to the point now is just finishing off the last little detail bits. Well, I am anyway, while Steve does some other important bits. But what I've done today is I've folded the lips on these wings all the way around. Normally these like point at a 45-degree angle, but we've rolled them round and tapped them flush, exactly like Eggenberger did them. So if it was good enough for him, it's good enough for us. So that's me. And then on the dash, if Steve goes on that side, I've used this dash one we had in just as a make fit to make sure we get it perfect to cut round the roll cage, both sides. And we've got it really, really neat. I'm really, really pleased with how it fits. So obviously I can use this now. I'll make templates off this dashboard. So when we get a better one, now the bits we've cut out of there, what we're going to do is glue them back on, exactly how my Bastos car's done. So the dash will still look complete. So that's my little bit done today, I think. I don't think I've done out else.
Right, so you've heard what Paul's done, so I'll tell you what I've been up to today. So to start with, I've put these bits of tube in here. So we looked at, obviously, Paul's Bastos car, and what they've done is they've obviously drilled a hole each side for the fuel pipes feed and return, and they've just put a grommet on each side. So we kind of thought, you know, let's make it a little bit nicer than just, you know, grommet in a piece of sheet, and we've put actual tube all the way through. And then this bit of dash 6 hose fits through, goes under the cage on each side, and will get tied in, obviously. One for the feed, one for the return. We've got a little bit of Kevlar insulation that you get on under bonnet pipes. You'll all have seen it. It's like the orange stuff. We'll just cable tie or heat shrink a bit round there as well, and that'll protect them fuel pipes from catching or anything. But yeah, little bits like that make the difference between, you know, a quality build and I guess a cheaper build. So yeah, I've done that. I've also made the floor plate, which you'll have already seen bits and pieces. Bit of 1mm sheet, so I made the template for it, marked it all out and everything, swaged it, ready for the grip tape to go between. We think we're going to get this powder coated, so this will be in maybe a satin black or something, and then it'll have the black tape between it. Again, you know, just we could have left it as a flat plate, but we decided, you know, let's make it look a bit nicer, and it follows the pattern on the bulkhead. which, you know, again, little details make for an overall nicely finished car. Clutch stop, another job that we did. So this is basically goes through the bulkhead. There's a captive nut on the other side, and this is the lock nut, so we can adjust the length. What that does is it stops us overextending the pedal and damaging the release bearing. Because obviously now that we haven't got any carpets or anything in, this would normally be pushed up higher with the carpets and the sound deadening, so we need to stop the pedal going as far. We don't really want to go extending pedals and all that because it changes pedal ratios, so we just put a stop on there. So yeah, all that. Paul's obviously done the dashboard, as you can see, and then I have started making up the engine mounts. So these are an exact copy, again, of Paul's car. What I've done is I've started shaping them. This is the outside. We've got slots for the engine mounts so that the engine can be slightly out of position if needs be, or wherever it sits best. These again, not swaged. Obviously, now we would probably assuage them, but as we're doing them exact to Paul's car, they are just drilled, which is the same as the roll cage gussets. And I've got an inside piece to put in. I'll put a piece of tube in here that's the same size as the bush, so that I can then tighten it up, and then that will set the distance so that we know then that the engine mount will fit. And then it'll just be a case of boxing it in and then welding it into the chassis. So yeah, that'll probably be my job for tomorrow. Alright guys, I've been on with engine mounts. So as you can see, I've got that one welded in. This one's cleaning up. So also, unfortunately, all saw's gone blunt. So I want a 38 all saw so I can finish off that, but I can do that when it's in, so that's not too bad. This one I've just tacked in. So as you can see, I've just set that up now. So I've took some measurements off Paul's car, so you can see that hole in the chassis, 45mm from that hole in the chassis is where the front of the mount wants to be. And what I actually did is I measured distance between the two plates, and I made up that little spacer there. And that basically simulates the insert in the middle of the bush so that we know it'll fit. And then it's basically been a case of squaring it up between the mounts, making sure that everything sits level before I go ahead and weld the other side in. You can see again, look, I've welded up down the inside and what have you. Yeah, and that'll be the engine mount. So we was going to make it so that we could remove it from the, so the mounts are only part of the subframe and we could just drop it down with the engine attached, but since we've kind of gone all out on this car in terms of replicating it to the rest of them, we've made the engine mounts exact to Paul's car, and it's difficult for me to get a good picture of them from here, but obviously as you can see, they look pretty good. So that'll allow the subframe obviously to unbolt and fall away, and it'll just leave the mounts in place. So yeah, another little job off the list. Probably one of the last ones that I've got to do, to be honest, before it goes off to paint. So I think next week we'll be on with possibly getting some of the road cars out the way before we start on the next shell. So yeah, I'm going to carry on and get that welded in, and I'll come back to you when it's finished.
Right guys, welcome back to our, what we call our weekly roundup. What we're going to do today is a little bit different. Obviously we've done quite a few videos now on the build of this car, but obviously not everybody's seen every video. So what we're going to do is quickly go through the whole car and give you some idea really of the total involvement in what it takes to build a proper original spec Group A car. And we have had a couple of people comment on the last video that the lighting was poor. So we have actually invested heavily in this state-of-the-art lighting rig that we bought off eBay, that we were told was a genuine Warner Brothers item used for filming a Terminator. Now, whether that's true or not, we don't know, but you know, to be fair, we think, look at that. Just look at Steve's face. Look at that. Hey, you're going to be able to see, look at it. You're going to be able to see every single bit of detail now. So no more complaining. Right. Steve will start off and he'll tell you what he's been doing, and I'll tell you lastly, well really, in fairness, all I've done on this is the fuel fillers at the back, put the holes in. I've cut the holes for the bonnet, which you'll have seen on the video, and put the wings on, modified the wings to give us a bit better clearance. But Steve will now go through the rest of the car with you.
Right guys, as Paul said, we're just basically going to go through the car front to back, just tell you what we've done. So when we got the car, obviously the wings was off. So first thing we've done is one of the jobs we've done is we've put wings back on. So obviously we had to pay quite a lot of attention to the panel gaps. So that was something that we've done. We start at the front, we'll lift bonnet up. So a lot of the holes have been filled in. Obviously these have normally got a lot of holes in them. That's something that was done before we got the shell. So a bit of fabrication that obviously was done in the Eggenberger workshops. Is that?
I think anything that you see with the yellow primer on is basically what Eggenberger did to the shell before we got it. Like that, the battery tray's been removed. They folded the lip on the bulkhead there, got rid of that, welded a few holes up. Some of them they shouldn't have welded up, but we'll get to that eventually, which is that there. That is that actually to hold the throttle pedal in, welded the holes up and cut the stud off the other side. So Steve's done that today, but anyway, I'll let you carry on. So yeah, anything you see in yellow basically is something we haven't done.
Yeah, so basically in engine bay, in terms of what would you have to do to build a Group A shell, well, you'll have to start off and you've got to stitch weld it. So we was lucky that we've got a brand new shell here. Makes it a lot easier. There's no seam sealer. Obviously around the strut tops, down the legs, down the tunnel, pretty much everything that you can see really has been seamed. There isn't a great deal we haven't done other than maybe the front panel, purely based on if we have to change it, it comes off pretty easy. So yeah, engine mounts, they're what I made today. You can see I've finished welding them in. There's little strengthening bits in them and stuff. So yeah, I've done that. We've got modification to the bulkhead to take the front and rear master cylinders. So that replaces the brake servo. That's another job you'll have to do. You have to drill out to fit the strut tops because they don't normally have the 3 holes for the strut tops. So again, something else. You've got your roll cage to build. You've got your
heater box,
that's the one.
Heater
matrix to plate over, because obviously you've normally got quite a big oval hole there that needs to go. Once your roll cage is in, you've got to go around and plate up your roll cage so you haven't got holes going through into the inside of the car. So that needs to basically be sealed off. The bulkhead sealed off from anything else. So that's pretty much all you've got under here. Anti-roll bar mounts, that's something else that you'll have to do.
Yeah, we'll spin that over. We'll show you them when we spin the car over.
So then moving into the car, if I open this door, we've got clutch stop to do. So you've got to make that so that you don't overextend the clutch pedal. You've got to fit the bearing for the steering column. So that's an uprated bearing, does away with the plastic one. I've obviously had to refit the throttle pedal, but you hopefully won't have to do that. Again, your roll cage that you can see inside. You've got a piece of steel, piece of steel that needs to go in here underneath the footplate, and then you've got a footplate to make. So again, another job to do.
Well, I'll just reiterate on down there where you can see them ridges on a normal shell. Again, that's been done by Eggenberger. There's normally slots cut in the floor there. Nobody really ever has been able to know and explain what them slots are, but anyway, they're all welded over. Right, so yeah, they're done. So there's a piece of box section, Steve was showing you there.
All these grommet holes have been obviously welded up, and then we've got a piece of box section here. So normally, if you look at that side, you can see the shape of the floor. Now, what they've done to fit the seat on the driver's side is they've plated up from about here, put some captive nuts in there, and that would obviously take your seat. You've then got to fit your crotch strap spreader plate and nut. Internal one for the inside of the seat belts, because that's normally obviously on the seat on the road car.
Obviously both sides. We've done both sides just in case we ever put a passenger seat in. You know, so it's the mounting points there. One thing I will mention, again, these yellow bits, look, you can see where they've welded up a lot of holes that's normally in the tunnel there. They've welded a plate there and 2 there. What they're actually for is they drill holes through there and there to mount the side exit exhaust. So, bloody phone. Once Steve's made the exhaust, we'll drill them holes. Obviously, that's it, yeah. Handbrake, plated over. There's a strengthener plate welded on there. Again, again, just to reiterate, the yellow stuff, we haven't done it, that's already been done.
We've got the 2 holes that we put through to allow the fuel pipes to pass through without risk of any chafing. You've got the air jack towers, these was already installed. These plates that go in here, they're obviously for the roll cage to sit onto. And then if you can just see there, they're the bosses that go through from the rear beam. So these sink through the car, touch up on the bottom of the rear beam, and obviously that bolt in the centre comes through the beam and ties the beam to the cage. You've got all these stitch welding and stuff. You've got your rear boxes that you need to make for your roll cage as well. This has been cut out here, so there's a piece of plate that comes along here, normally ties into the outside inner sill. That's obviously been removed when the air jack towers have gone in. We've got rear seatbelt points to put in, a lot more of seam welding to do, and then we've also got some more bungs to do to weld up in the boot floor, in the spare wheel well. We've got the holes to put through for the fuel pipes.
Again, we've done them different there, because on my car all they've done is drilled holes and then use rubber grommets to put the fuel pipes through. Well, we're sort of not really happy with that. So what Steve's done is welded some washers on there, as you can see, and what we're going to do is put bulkhead fittings through there, which we think is just a little bit better. Well, it's just a better way of doing it. So we've done that. While we're in there, you can see there where the fuel fillers have been drilled. We've had to extend the holes up. That's it, Steve's pointing that out. We've had to cut them out.
So it would normally be across here.
That's right.
We've extended it up around here, both sides,
to get them in. So that's obviously the back side of...
So if we look at the outside of the car, we've got the fuel fillers to actually fit and then roll the edges over. You've got the original fuel cap to weld up. There's the inner and outer wheel arches to roll. And then inside the wheel arches, we've removed this here to give us more clearance, basically for working on the car. And then you have to just relieve a little bit in here to allow the new shockers. The new dampers are obviously a bigger damper and spring setup than the original. The spring would normally be somewhere round here, is it?
It's there. The spring would sit there, but he used a posh word saying relieve. What I mean is whack hell out of it with an hammer, a big hammer, and you have to brace that in, because that's comes out quite a long way, and the spring rubs on it, so you have to give that a good seam. So.
Yeah, I use the engineering term there.
Yeah, he uses the posh term. I'm from Yorkshire, I just say as he is.
So yeah, we'll give it a spin over and we'll have a look at what we've done underneath. Right, so the car's obviously on its side now, so we'll start and run through everything that we've done again. You can see the extent of the stitch welding that has to be done. It is quite a lot, but we'll start here with anti-roll bar mounts. So obviously I machined up these mounts, or these little bushings almost. So 3mm plate goes on to strengthen the chassis leg, and then obviously these are welded on. That's for the anti-roll bar. One on each side. Again, you can see the backs of where the fuel pipes come through, the backs of where the seat belts go. So we've also, what we've done, this normally comes like this. So that gets relieved to allow and stitched back, well, welded back up again, the seam, to allow more travel for the arm. I think it's this one that comes through here. You've got your rear beam. So this is obviously a modified rear beam as well. You've got these little ears that need to go on, and if you just look on the inside of there, you can just about see they go through to the roll cage, they do.
That's the other side of the boss that we showed you earlier that's welded to the roll cage. Obviously, once that's nipped up tight, that bolt's tightened up, that closes that gap up, and the rear beam is solidly mounted through to the floor, through to the roll cage.
We've got solid beam bushings that have been installed, and then there's a little bit of change of angles on the beams and strengthening plates and bits and pieces that go into it. So that's obviously quite a big job. You can see backs of the air jack tubes.
I'll just point out there what we do here. There's normally a lip there you can see that sticks out. That's returned, braid back against the floor, and then stitch welded back against the floor. Again, a lot of this isn't necessarily for strength. What that does, if you're working on the car, it gets rid of stuck out sharp edges. So that's the main reason for doing that.
I'll just point that one out as well. That's where the
bracket for the fuel tank
fuel
is.
Tank, and also is the fuel pump bracket being taken off as well?
Yep, that's right, and they've all gone.
Moving further forward, again, a lot of stitch welding. You'd spend most of your time stitch welding it than anything else. Then we come up to where the original anti-roll bar mounts were. So we've obviously made a 3mm plate. Again, captive nuts in the back because the ones that are in the chassis are pretty weak. So we've obviously gone down our own route of making sure that they're solidly welded in there rather than just 2 tacks. Into like the front strut top area, you can see that's where the cage was welded from the other side. A lot more seam welding again. Back of the engine mounts that I fabricated earlier. So again, welded in here, and that's part of the chassis. Subframe comes up and bolts in the original spot. We've reinforced around the towing eye as well. So yeah, there's quite a lot of work involved that you don't not really see. By the time this is painted, a lot of it you won't even notice is being done, unless you really know what you're looking at.
I'm quite surprised that we've done this video. It doesn't actually look like a lot of work, but we worked it out early, did me and Steve. We reckon it's one man. If one man set about it, you would be a month, roughly, give or take a few hours. A month, one man to do all the fabrication. That's, to be fair, including Steve manufacturing the roll cage. You know, he's made it. We bought the tubing and he's done everything himself in the house here. A lot of the fabrication, you haven't seen the tools, but we have a little fabrication room where all the brackets, the bushes are machined up on a lathe. So it's things like that that people don't realise. Them bushes that we showed you earlier, you know, they've all got to be made out of a solid tube of steel. Steve's gone and machined them down, then drilled them, tapped them. So, you know, and you can be in that room for 4 or 5 hours just making some bushes up. Silly things like there, you know, you have to weld up the hole for the tailgate. There's a huge amount of work, as I'm sure you can see, you know, even fabricating all them, making them all up, making templates, then welding them all together, putting them in place. Massive amount of work. But we're really, well, I think we've both enjoyed it. I've been learning a bit of Steve. Steve's learned absolutely massive amounts from me. You know, like how to fit bonnet vents and some filler holes. What more does he want to know? But we have genuinely enjoyed it. We've had a laugh. We've enjoyed working together on it. And we're just really looking forward to seeing it come back from paint.
You've missed the most important thing that you've taught me.
Go on.
How to wrap up the grinder wire.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but you know, sometimes you have to educate people. We forgot something else, you know, during the shell fabrication, you've also got to make all the body kit fit. Because obviously when you roll the arches on the car, you've got to trim all the body kit, which is up there waiting to go to paint. You've got all that to trim and fit before it goes to paint. The front bumper is to modify slightly, brackets for the front bumper to push the front bumper slightly further away. So yeah, there's a lot to it, a lot of work. But as I say, we're really happy with it. And we hope you've enjoyed the video so far. We've done our best to try and show you what's involved. So keep coming back, keep checking in after this video. I think the next one will be...
Yeah, we'll hopefully get some videos of it in the paint shop.
Yeah, we will, yeah. I'm going to go to the paint shop at different intervals and we'll video when it's prepped, then when it's primered, and then when it's painted inside underneath and that. So we'll keep updating the videos as we go so you can see the whole paint process. And then obviously when it comes back from paint, that's the best bit for me and Steve because we'll start putting it back together. So thanks again for tuning in. We both really appreciate it. We appreciate the feedback we've had and the kind comments from a lot of you guys. Yeah, once again, thanks very much for tuning in and we'll catch you on our next video.